Well, welcome to today's Senior Living. I'm your boy, Doug Foster, the host of today's Senior Living, and in which is much going on here in the DMV. Kids going back to school, and man, I'm glad to get them off the street. To be very frank with you, because so much is going on with them. I don't know what to. That's another discussion for another day. Okay, especially the kids here in DC. We love them all. Okay, but today, August the 25th, this is number 12 podcast with today's senior living. You can always call us here at 202 810 2663 and tell us what's on your mind. I want to find out, do we have a caller on the line, George?
You know we do. Our favorite segment of the evening.
Man, this is what makes my day.
I'm telling you,
Wow.
Miss Latoya Foster, welcome once again to today's Senior
Welcome,
Living.
welcome.
Hi, Georgie. Hi, Daddy. How are you?
I am
Hello to today's Senior Living.
I am happy, baby. I'm ecstatic. Okay. I'm
That's what
just
I'm talking about.
I'm
That's what I'm
ecstatic.
talking about.
I'm
Good
ecstatic.
deal.
I'm
What we
ecstatic.
talking about today on today's Senior Living?
We're going to be talking about the quality of life for our seniors. Uh, some of the things that are happening, and even in our midst, Latoya, things are happening in nursing homes, assisted livings, and uh, convalescent homes. And my seniors are not getting the kind of quality of care that they deserve, Latoya. And it grieves my spirit to know that many of them, when they go into certain nursing homes, especially even in senior living, um, even in private institutions, okay, uh, my seniors are not getting the kind of quality of care. I had the opportunity to go see Aunt Margaret, who is 105 years old, Latoya.
I love it.
She made it 105 years old, and we got a chance to see her. But I mean, I just noticed certain things at the facility that she's in, and I mean, though they're doing quite well, uh, you know, uh, I don't have very much to say about it. I think that they're probably giving her the best they possibly can give her. Okay, so. Um,
So, what I would say is, um, when you have a loved one who enters into a facility, an institution, if you will, there's nothing more important than advocates. And I'm not necessarily discussing the advocates that the facility assigns to you, but I'm talking about your village, your family members, your friends, you know, the people who are a part of your village. And, it really, uh, what could I say? It becomes personal for someone like myself and others who, when you think about, okay, who's going to be there, Now, you start to get nervous and you got five daughters
You're right.
and you start worrying, Lord, what's going to happen to me if I got to go into a facility, or what's going to happen? But the truth is, it's something that we all have to think about. Who is your village, right? Now, I'll tell you, um, we all have a friend. Daddy, you know him. George, you've met him. I'm not going to reveal his identity for the sake of, I don't know if he wants everyone to know his business right now, but he is unfortunately going through something that I dealt with a few years ago with my own mother. And he's preparing for his father's transition because his father has dementia, was placed in a local facility here in the DMV,
Hmm.
and he was dehydrated, and he had a feeding tube. He had not been fed properly. He had not been hydrated properly, and now he is at a state where he's not going to turn the corner. It's just not going to happen.
Now that's crazy. That
But
is.
this is what happens when, you've got to have this village that's constantly checking in, constantly making sure that they know that somebody is watching them, someone's observing them, someone is eagerly going to step in on behalf of the person who's lying in that bed. The person who's lying in that bed is vulnerable. They cannot fight nor advocate
No,
for
no,
themselves.
that's
So
exactly
you've
right.
got to have a village to ensure that they know that there's somebody around who cares about this person, because they'll fight a little bit harder if they know someone else is fighting for them.
Yeah,
And as an
absolutely.
advocate, a part of that village, part of your task is to not only fight for them, but to encourage them to fight as well.
Yeah,
You know, you have to, you know, push the patient to show some signs of they're willing to fight for their own life, that they want to live, that they want to get well. You know, it has to be you got to walk in tandem on it. You know, they've got to see the effort. They've got to see that you have a village that's not going to let up, and then you've got to hold them accountable too. You know, and it's a very fine line where you have a loved one in a facility and you're not in position to bring them to your home, right? And you want to pop off and let them have it for not necessarily providing the quality of care that you want for your loved one, but you know you can't pop off for so far because you got to leave them there. So there's a lot that you have to think about. The best advice I can give for anyone out there, and for whatever reason, God made me, he put me in this position, I guess, to school other people. I wish that he had skipped me on this one, but nonetheless, here we are. The best advice I can give anyone is to right now, when you are healthy and well, couple of things. One, you've got to have a village. You must have a village. That's your family members, that's your children, your grandchildren, your mentees, those nieces and nephews, those godchildren, the co-worker that you call your daughter, your son. It's those folks, right, that are going to jump in and move mountains to ensure that you have everything you need to get to the other side. Secondly, you've got to have your legal documents in place. And this isn't just for a senior. This is all of us. George, at your age even, all the way up to Daddy, your age, we all have a responsibility to ensure that we have a medical power of attorney in place so that if in the event, and it can happen to anybody, in the event something happens, that the medical facility knows your desires, that someone else can advocate on your behalf. They need to know, do you want to do not resuscitate, or do you want them to fight until your last breath? You've got to put all those things in writing, have them legally notarized. There's just so many things you have to do, and the powers of attorney are very different. You have a durable power of attorney, you have a medical power of attorney, and you have a financial institution power of attorney. Your durable power of attorney will not work if you go into the bank of your loved one. They do not recognize it. They have their own. So when you're well and nothing is wrong, you need to take your spouse, your kids, your loved one, whoever it is that you trust, and add them to a financial power of attorney that is placed in your documents in your banking facility, your financial institution, to ensure that if you can't speak for yourself, if you cannot pay your bills or whatever because you're just sick and you just can't do it, that someone else has a way to make sure that they're keeping everything afloat while you're trying to recover, right? So that's one thing. I got to get to the finances. That money matters. That money absolutely matters. And that medical power of attorney is important because someone has to be able to advocate for you. And, we'll always say, well, I have a wife, or I have a husband, or I have a daughter, I have a son. Here's the thing about that as well. They are your next of kin, but that does not necessarily give them the right to say, okay, I want them to have a tracheostomy tube. I want them to have a feeding tube. I want them to have this surgery. All of that has to be placed in writing. Who can make decisions on your behalf? Now, at the time when, unfortunately, I had to work through these things when my mother became ill, we were putting all of those things in place, and we
Yeah.
had put them all in place because this was during the time of COVID, right?
Yep.
This is during the time of COVID. And though, she wasn't going out at all, I was at work every single day. But I understood it because, we're touching it every day. We saw the numbers. We could see, how many people have been hospitalized in this hospital, that hospital, whatever. You could see all of those things, right? So it made you think about, I got to get my own life in place. In my head and in a whole lot of others, we were like, I know I'm outside. This might happen. This could happen to me. Luckily, it did not. But these are the things that we were all thinking about. So we were all in our own little circles at work talking about, did you add anybody to your bank account? Did you get your power of attorney set up? So we all were holding each other accountable for those things. So I say that to say, at a time when, you're healthy, you're well, you have no mental distress, put all of these things in place. Put the document somewhere that your village can get to it and be ready for in the event any of this happens. But going back to your original question, your original thoughts, Daddy, when it comes down to loved ones and facilities and so forth, you must have advocates. You must have people who can jump in on your behalf. You must have people who can articulate your wishes. You must have people who are holding folks accountable. And it's good if you have somebody that has a little bit of knowledge about the medical field and what needs to be done, who can make suggestions to the medical staff on what to do for you and what not to do for you. I used to write things on the board when my mother was in the hospital. I would write on the board, I'm claustrophobic, I'm allergic to seafood, I'm allergic to codeine, do not give me this. I would write things on there so they would know, whoever was coming in there, in big, bold letters, so they knew what to do and what not to do as best that we could navigate during that time. But most importantly, you need an advocate. You got to have a village. You really just got to have a village.
Well, that's true, Latoya. But fortunately enough, you took this on your own, and you grabbed the ball and you ran with it. And I'm gonna tell you, you did. I mean, those things that your mother had to go through um, was unbelievable.
Yeah,
That this is what sparked. This is what perpetuated today's senior living.
that's right. That's
This
right.
is what
That's
because
right.
of the poor quality of care. It
So,
ain't
but here's the thing we got to talk about, though. We talk about the poor quality of care, right? But let's give some thoughts to the people who have to get up every single day to take
okay.
care of our loved ones.
Okay,
You got to
let's
think
talk
about
about
that.
let's talk about that because that's important too. But when they get up in the morning and they know that they got to go to work, why not go to work, go to the job and do the job? Don't go to the
Well,
job and then fluff up at the job. I mean, because those people's lives are in your hand.
and that's absolutely right. And they do have a responsibility to do their job.
Absolutely.
But here's where your problem comes in. You got to think about it because I watched it every time I went in there, right? It takes a unique individual who really wants to walk into a room to
Okay.
take care of somebody else's loved one.
Okay.
That means, and I mean, we got to get down to the nitty gritty. I watched the time when they would come in, they would bathe my mother, they would give her all her meds, they done cleaned her up real good, all that, and they might have anywhere between 8 to 10 patients that one nurse might have had to deal with, right? So the nurse, let's call her Nurse Amy. Nurse Amy then got her cleaned up, got her fed through her feeding tube, and checked all her vitals, and got her all her medications. Woo woo, she's good to go. Her daughter's here. I can leave them to have their family time to themselves. And I kid you not, the nurse might have got no further than the doorway, and mama done threw up again, and it's throw up all over the sheets, all over her gown, all
Yeah,
over
yeah,
everything, and you
yeah.
got to get them right back in there to go back and clean it all the way up again, change the sheets again, and when you have someone, you know, you're thinking, okay, well, this person, you know, they might not weigh a whole lot, but when they're lying there, it's a certain way you got to move them. You got to take a sheet to pull them up in the bed and pull them down in the bed to turn them this way and that way. And you need 2 or 3 people to help you do it. It's not that I'm
It's
advocating, not that I'm giving any excuses, but I got to paint a picture. It takes a very unique person to walk into those rooms every single day and say, I know I've got to change the bedpans, change the diapers, wash them up, clean them up, bathe them. You know, it's feeding
it's
tubes,
it's a la-
tracheostomy tubes. It's a whole lot involved there. So
it's a la-
the best of, mm,
it's a labor of love. I don't doubt the fact that it's a labor of love. But the other thing is that though it may be a labor of love, you still have a responsibility. If you decide that that's not what you want to do, then leave. Now, I
here's the
can't.
thing.
Go ahead. Tell me.
No, go ahead.
But you see, I do realize that even in our environment right now, okay, most providers that are working in nursing homes and convalescent homes, assisted living, many of those people are leaving the industry. Period. You know, they don't. I mean, even doctors are leaving, nurses are leaving, nurse practitioners are leaving. I mean, though we know that they're tired, okay, but what's going to,
Hmm.
but what's the answer? What is the answer? What's the next? What's the answer to this divide? What is the answer?
You know, I would say we've got to start encouraging the upcoming generations to study medicine, to become nurses and nurse practitioners, RNs, uh, et cetera, et cetera. I could tell you here in Washington, D.C., that Mayor Bowser created a program over at Howard University Hospital to recruit more young people to become doctors. She and Dr. Roger Mitchell, some of you may know Dr. Mitchell. You've heard his name thrown around. He was part of the medical team who provided the autopsy for Nolan Wells. He is the head of the National Medical Association. They created a program at Howard University where they were recruiting young black men to become doctors, to study medicine. We've got to tell folks, you know, there's still a lot of great money you can make in
Absolutely,
healthcare. That is
there
still
is.
value in becoming a doctor. There's still value in becoming a nurse. There's still value in becoming a nurse's assistant. It is a recession-proof opportunity. It is an opportunity that AI cannot take over. We will always need caregivers. We will
You
always
absolutely.
need people to jump in there to help those
That's
who
exactly
are
right.
in need. And an unfortunate part for most of us, we will all get a turn. No matter where you are in life, at some point, you're probably going to need someone 95% of the time. Maybe there's 1 or 2 unique folk who can get through here and just one day go to sleep and don't wake up and they never have to deal with it, but the majority have to. So you need people who are really dedicated, who love the idea of being there for folks, to come in there, roll up their sleeves, know that it might be a thankless job, but just know that it is a job that is recession proof. And you think about oftentimes that could be your loved one lying in there. That could be you lying in there. So
That's exactly
you'll
right.
want to go in there with the positive attitude to give people the best care that you can. But I do have to call it what it is that, you know, doctors, nurses, and so forth, during COVID, it was just a fatigue. I mean, you had people working around the clock. You had folks getting sick and people feeling it. It was from that point forward, it was as you would like to say, a shift in the paradigm. It was a shift in the paradigm as it relates to quality health care, specifically in the senior community and senior
Absolutely.
facilities and so forth. It was just a shift. People were burnt out. They were just burnt out.
Yeah.
And then people started looking around, and George, you can feel me on this. Folks start saying, shit, I can become an influencer. I don't have to do this. I can just go out there and create content. I don't have to do this.
Yep.
That's right.
And to be very frank with you, those individuals that I mean, these young people that going to college now who wanted to be doctors, they're now looking over their shoulder and saying, you know, I can make a whole lot of money by being a system analyst, or I could be an AI specialist, or I can
Or
do
I
this.
could just be a content creator, put my phone up, create some content,
Con-
get
I-
X amount of views
That's
and some
exactly
ads,
right. And some
and be
ads,
done with it.
and be done with it. And I don't have to
Hmm.
go to, and I don't have to do nothing. Okay.
But that's
So,
few
so
far in between, and there's still a lot of value in going to college and getting your degree and going
absolutely,
to the
it's
medical
no doubt
field.
about that.
You
I
know,
don't.
there's all of that. You
Yep.
know, but what I
Yep.
can say is, if you want to see your loved one turn the corner, you've got to really, you've got to jump in. The village has to jump in, create an environment that makes them want to fight. You know, I would go in the room with my mother, and I can remember I went in there on Mother's Day one time. This was probably right around the time she had just become ill, and when I walked in, she was on the ventilator at the time. She stayed on the ventilator for 10 weeks actually. And I walked in with a bouquet of flowers and big cards and balloons, and I put everything around the room. And she had just, she was coming out of a coma, and I tried to make the room an environment that she said, okay, I got to fight a little bit. And I remember, at that time, you're trying to get your person back, right? So at the time when I was trying to get her to respond, with little things like, can you follow my finger with your eyes? Can you stick your tongue out? Do you understand? Do you know this is Toya in the room? It was those type of things happening in there. And I remember there was a nurse, her name was Helen, and she went in and she said, Miss Sharon, she said, your daughter's fighting for you, and these doctors are going to fight for you, but you got to show you got some fight in you. She said, look at what your daughter brought you. She said, I need you to squeeze my hand as hard as you can. And it took her a second, but she did it. She did it. And she continued to do it. And after 10 weeks, she got off that ventilator. And we started fighting. I mean, we went into fight mode. But what was important is, and I would look around at people's rooms, you got to give them pictures. You got to bring some life into the room, some sunshine. You've got to have pictures up of the good times and remind them. Remember when we went to Florida? Remember when we went to King's Dominion? Remember that Christmas we did blah, blah, blah? You got to bring them back to all of the great things, and then you got to tell them about things that are coming up and what you want them there for and what you need them there for, and I need you to fight your way out of this. And you will find that when you create that environment, that you allow that sunshine in, those pictures, those great memories, maybe not fresh flowers because there can be some allergies, once you start taking medications and so forth and other patients who are around, but bringing bouquets of fake flowers and, things like that, that gives them a reason to keep pushing. That gives them some beauty to look at. Can you imagine being in a facility and all you got to do, they turn you one way and you're looking at a gray wall and that's all you see? Or you're looking up at the ceiling and all you're seeing is the light shining in your eye? It's those things. You have to create something that gives them the will to fight.
That's very true. I mean, but in some instances, Latoya, whereby the folks who have dementia, um, such as Aunt Margaret, for an example, she has dementia. Okay, where where do they find the fight? 78% of all seniors over, I mean, I have to say at least 65% of all seniors over 70 years old have some form of dementia, okay, or Alzheimer's. How do you get them to think about fighting when they can't even remember?
Well,
Tell me.
you talk to them. But from what I know, and I haven't had to work with anyone who's had dementia, so I don't know what that's like. But I would still talk to them the same way too. They have their moments. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're
They're
not.
not. Exactly
You just
right.
got to keep talking to
Got
them. You just got to keep talking to them, and you just talk. You just keep talking to them, keep engaging them, keep showing them things. It's that part. It's
Yeah.
that.
Well, let me ask you before we end this conversation, what is the single most important piece of advice that you would give a family when they decide to choose a nursing home?
Um, that's a lot of advice I would give there. I would give you want recommendation. I just did this with someone too, separate and apart from the individual I was talking about earlier. You need some recommendations. You need to look at the reviews. Matter of fact, I'm gonna give you one that you can do right now. You need to tour some facilities right now. So when the time comes, if the time ever presents itself, that I could put a person over here, and I know they would be halfway okay. You need some friends in place. Listen, when you get your family member in one of those facilities, you got to hook some of those nurses up. You got to bring some cupcakes. You got to bring some cookies up there.
Yeah, you got to bring some sweets
you
up
know what
there.
I
You got
mean?
to
You
have
got to
something sweet.
let them know that how much you appreciate them,
Yeah,
and you thank them for fighting with your family member. Thank them for fighting for your family member, and you'd be surprised at how they'll jump in and do more because you appreciate their efforts.
absolutely, Latoya. Again, Latoya, thank you so kindly for being on today's Senior Living. You have given us a lot of hope, and I'm gonna tell you, I can't ask for no more. I can't ask for no more than that. But
Well,
promise,
again, most importantly, keep people inspired and encouraged. The end.
absolutely,
Yep.
absolutely. With that note, I thank you so kindly, my dear. Love you
Thank you,
always,
George. Thank you, Daddy.
and
Take care,
and
Miss
and,
Toya.
and promise you're gonna be back next week.
I'm looking at my calendar. Hold the line.
Hey, George.
Uh, we'll see. I'll do my best.
All right, darling. Thank you very much. But we
Thank
got
y'all. Take care. Bye bye
all right
now.
there. Wow, George Latoya gave us a handful, didn't she not?
Oh, she sure did. She sure did. As always, we
Well, I
so
mean,
enjoy her.
ain't no question about it.
Absolutely.
So we got another guest, George.
We sure do.
Do I have a Roger Gore around?
Yes, we have Mr. Roger Gore, who's joining us on Zoom.
Well, bring him on, okay?
Yeah, you'll see him in just a second. Here we
Now,
go.
though most of us don't understand or realize, though they don't understand or realize that this show is about seniors, and this show is not just in Washington, D.C. This is a show that is all over the country, okay? You can catch today's senior living if you're on the moon. Well, welcome to today's senior living, Roger. How are you?
Hey, how you doing, Doug? Everything's good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I am so happy that you are on, Roger. I mean, there's a lot I want to cover with you because I know you got a book out there. You got things going on. You got all kinds of events coming up and all kinds of stuff like that. But before I go anywhere, Roger, tell me about what inspired you to do the things that you do, especially with all of the things that I know that you have been involved with. But tell me what have inspired you to take on, pray, raise, and take on the AASA. Tell us what has inspired you, Roger.
As we get older, um, sometimes it hits us early. I've been an activist for change since I was probably 19 or 20 years old. And then I set out to be the number one cosmetic company, number one spirit brand, things like that. Then you hit a wall, and that wall is, a control monopoly. And that control monopoly is not letting a lot of us through to reach shelf space, and as well as some of us that's already on the shelf, it's still a monopoly that's not allowing us to make the profits that we need because they have the squeezing margins that are going back to all your brands. And that's in most industries. I don't care if it's cosmetics, apparel, produce, um, So I wanted to make a difference. My 32 years of experience in wholesale retail distribution, I wanted to share and educate the brands that are coming out and brands that are currently on the shelf that may not be aware. And I wanted to make sure I could clear a path to create a dedicated channel that's African American owned, from producer or spirit to wholesaler that's African American. If we happen to lose that in the retail, we still have the African American consumer. So it goes from African American consumer, maybe foreign, Indian, or Asian retailer, to African American wholesaler, back to African American brand. And if we can flip that retailer spot and it goes from African American consumer, African American retailer, African American wholesaler, African American brand, then we're going to have control over our future. Whoever controls the channel controls the future. And right now we produce a lot of products, but we do not control the channel. We're in their channel. And we have to, we were here to break ground that every other nationality can come here and be successful because of us.
Ain't no question about that.
In the 60s and the 70s, we rode the bull. And for somehow we've gotten off track tremendously, from banking to manufacturing to wholesale to retail. We're buying from everyone. We're not creating anything. We're not creating a channel. So I figure, at my age, at the point I'm in my life now, I've accomplished a lot. But now I'm focused on leaving an impact that will make a difference for generations that I'll probably never see.
Well, let me ask you, Roger, uh, talk to me a little bit about the African American spirit retail industry, and all of the individuals that have taken place here in this area with regards to uh, the African American in spirits.
Right. So when I got into the spirit industry about 3 or 4 years ago, maybe a little about 3 years ago, and when I got into it, it only took me 6 months with my experience to realize it was a commercial monopoly, meaning that it's a few companies that produce probably 90% of the brands that are sold through a handful of wholesalers, that the retailers, those brands probably represent 90+% of the brands on the shelf. So when you look at your major players, from Jack Daniels to Tito's, the Maker's Mark, 1800, Jameson, all of these brands, Captain Morgan, dominate 90% of the alcohol retail business in the United States. We got 1,200 African American
Wow.
towns and cities in the United States, 1,200 African American towns and cities. And those brands have been dominating those 1,200 African American towns and cities for over 50 something years. The only time that we've been able to create a clear path of distribution where we benefited from the top through the wholesalers to the retailers, we're in the cosmetic business that I'm also a part of. And I wanted to take what I had learned and experienced in the cosmetic business and bring it to the spirit business. So when you look at us now, people think it's 30, 40, or 50 brands. There are over 547 African American owned spirit brands in the United States. And we don't have not even 1% of shelf space. We have 0% when it comes to restaurants and chain restaurants and things like your Outbacks or your Ruby Tuesdays or anything like that, is 0%. So I wanted to take my experience and bring all the spirit brands and the breweries and the wineries and distilleries together. And coming together, I wanted to negotiate with our retail partners, which is your Indians or Asians or whoever owns the retail space, the liquor stores, bars, and restaurants, to give us dedicated shelf space where we can feature our African American Spirit and Retail Association members. In doing that, I was able to also include African American wholesalers. So now we have our spirits being sold from African American owned breweries, wineries, distilleries, spirit brands, to African American wholesalers. And through those African American wholesalers who didn't have business at first, because most states, the law state that only one person can carry a brand. So if somebody has Tito's, nobody else can carry Tito's. Somebody has Jack Daniels, nobody else can carry Jack Daniels. So because 97% of the brands on the shelf were already accompanied by a wholesaler, the African American wholesalers had nothing to carry. Now I've given them something to carry. We got a commitment from 103 liquor stores in Prince George's County. We started out in 25 to 27. Everything is based on performance, but we are able to get our own shelf space, about 17, 18 brands on the shelf, and we can expand based on performance. But those brands you see on the shelf that you see the African American Spirit of Retail Association logo, those brands are giving you a message, a sign that that money spent in that section is going back through our community. And it's going through African American wholesalers, African American brands. So you're going to see that money redirected back in our community. That's the key. When they talk about the 1.9 trillion that we're spending every year, or 1.6 trillion, less than 2% is coming back to us. It's because that money is going from African American customer to a foreign retailer to a white or Jewish wholesaler to a white brand. It went right out of our community as soon as you picked it up and spent the dollar. I changed that. And that was historic because it's never been accomplished and never been done in the spirit industry. And we're just getting started. So many brands are coming on board and want to be a part of the movement, but we also have to educate our consumer that when you go into a liquor store and you see our section or you don't, ask for it, because when you purchase in that section, that money is redirected back into our community. And I wanted to give you a variety of products so you could change. So you got vodkas, you got whiskeys, you got gin, tequilas, you have bourbons, you have rums, flavored rum, you have RTCs, you have liqueur, you have everything in our section, wines, so that you can change from that spirit that you've been buying, that the money goes out of our community and buy from us. And then that would encourage the retailers to add more brands to the section and give us more locations. So, what we're doing is historic. And I just figured I wanted to finish this quarter of my life creating an impact for those that I will probably never meet.
But Roger, I see this going a lot further than just the Prince George. How do you plan to expand beyond PG and maybe DC into other areas? We got 20 counties in the state of Maryland. We got
Yeah,
a wide world over here. How do we
yeah.
how do you plan? I want my audience to be able to, those in Chicago, we want them to know about the African American Spirit Retailers Association. How do you plan to go about doing that?
So it's just like distribution, is that you have to perfect the model first before you expand. But our goal is to expand nationally. But you carry our current membership just in Prince George's County, 50% of the brands are from out of town. I did that on purpose because if we got brands from Atlanta, Michigan, Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, then as we expand, we're going to go
Yeah.
into those areas first. So they've come into our area and they've been able to accept the resources. We're going to go into their area. But we want to first get a solidified business model, which we have, and get it working.